welcome into the show. As always, I'm Alec Brenner. That's Mike Wolfgang. This is the Casual Sports Podcast. And Mike, guess what day it is?
Hump Day.
There we go. We got it. It's been a while since we've actually done it on Hump Day and got it right. I think I said it last week after I already said, hey, Mike, how's it going? But
I know we used to do it all the time when we were in person.
Oh, yeah. I mean, every Wednesday, that's how we got this show going last year. So we're back in football season. And of course, it's coming back around. Everything comes back around eventually.
Best time of year.
That it is, because we get to that point. I mean, baseball, we know who's going to be at the bottom of the standings pretty much the rest of the way. You're going to have a couple tight races, maybe. NFL, they're getting started. High school football's kicking off tomorrow. You know, everyone here at the network is excited about that one. Got a huge slate of games to open things up Thursday. Friday's even bigger. Saturday, we got volleyball coverage. I think later on tonight and yesterday, I think we had Mahoning Valley Scrappers action as well. So it's been a full slate all week.
Yeah, it's the best time of year. And I always say October is because you got all three sports going on. Oh, actually all four with hockey too. Pro sports at least. Baseball playoffs, you got football and getting in the meat of it. Hockey and basketball starting. And by the way, the Cavs schedule drops about less than an hour today. So NBA schedules drop at 3 o'clock.
Well, we'll see what happens then. It might be interesting to talk at least start of the season. Obviously, the big question still looms. Colin Sexton, what's that move going to end up? Because technically, he's a free agent here at the moment, is he not?
I believe so.
Okay.
I'm not tied up too much into it, so I don't.
Right. It's been a while. You know, we're out of basketball mode, so I don't remember any of the contract details of free agency. It's been, 2 months, I think, since we dropped all that pretty much off the face of the network here. And we're back in a football season. But, yeah, I mean, we got college basketball. Don't forget about that. That's coming up in not too many months. I think it's a month and a half away, 2 months about. So, you know, get forward to us talking about that here soon enough. We're not going to go as far into that, at least here in the early parts of the season. You're going to get the big tournaments. We'll talk about those and some of those big matchups to start out the year. But don't expect that to get too in-depth until we get probably into December. That's when we'll go full-on basketball yet again here on the network.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see. Speaking of the schedule, we won't be on when it gets released and to break it down, but I want to see how much national attention the Cavs get this year, seriously, because
that's an interesting one.
What they did, I know they 2 games leaked yesterday. I think they're going to start the year in Toronto on the 19th. I don't know if that's nationally televised or not. They have 2 nationally televised games. The Laker one's at home is going to be national TV, and the Pelican one, I don't know if it's in home or in New Orleans, but that's going to be national TV as well. So I want to see how many more they actually get, because
talk about 2 great rebuilding franchises there, New Orleans and Cleveland.
And Toronto.
In Toronto, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Toronto never really needed a rebuild. They just keep putting guys in spots and continuously making it to the playoffs. They're phenomenal.
They're a team that does it well. But that's and I'll, not even just for the Cavs. I want to see how, teams like Toronto, young teams last year had good years, how much national TV attention they get this year. Because
how about Charlotte?
Do they deserve it?
I want to see what they get, because we know they're not getting a Christmas Day game. They're actually, I believe, the only team left in the NBA that has never played on Christmas Day. So they're not getting that. But you wonder, that's a team with LaMelo Ball. Obviously, Michael Jordan owns the team, and he's running operations there, overseeing everything. But that's a team that is definitely on its way up, and I think they're a team you got to watch out for this season.
Yeah, there's a lot of those teams in that category. But I think the Christmas games got released a few days ago. I don't remember which ones are which, but we'll see what happens later at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, should be fun to see. Unfortunately, like you said, we're not going to be on here to see all that get dropped. But, Mike, we can still look ahead to this weekend, however, and go into week 2 of the preseason. We've already talked preseason week 1. We're going to start preseason week 2 a little early here so we can get a lot of games done here today. Do a little bit less on Thursday and Friday as we get ready for the local football season getting ramped up. We want to focus our attention over that here for at least week 1 a little bit more, since we're still in preseason in the NFL. It's not that important. So local stuff, that is important, and you fans love it. So we're going to give you guys what you want when we get down there. But NFL week 2 underway, Mike. We start off Thursday game as well. It is on ESPN, so you finally get a national broadcasted preseason game, and I think they probably picked one of the worst ones to do it. It's the Bears going to Seattle to take on the Seahawks.
Well, okay, so this might be off topic at least until we break it down, but I'm sitting here thinking, last week the Seahawks are in Pittsburgh. I don't understand the scheduling for some of these preseason games. It just popped my mind. Like, for a preseason practice game, these teams are traveling across. Like Chicago's going to Seattle. That's a far distance for them. And that's far distance for Seattle coming to Pittsburgh. I think for preseason games, I should keep it on each coast of the country because I think that's where most of the teams are at. But I don't know. There's some pop in my head. It was kind of off topic, but that's another one with this matchup too.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you got to take in a travel this early in the season. You are going to get that, I think, a little bit more than not. We do know, however, Seattle missing some integral pieces here. Drew Lock tested positive for COVID. He will be out Thursday's game. Geno Smith will get the start. And we just found out recently in training camps as well, just before Drew Lock was getting ended up with COVID, that he had finally started getting first string reps. He hadn't gotten them to this point in training camp until earlier this week. Then he goes down with COVID. So I think it's a really big, fourth, fifth chance for Geno Smith to get a starting gig in the NFL. I mean, dude's going in at 31 years old, and he was a second-round pick in the draft almost 10 years ago. So he's had a wild career. He's been all over the place, and it looks like yet again he could find himself in a starting gig. I think it's been a while since he's ended up in this spot, but, if you're going to have any guy do it, Geno Smith is perfectly fine. But now that you open the door for another quarterback to get in there, got to watch out. Jacob Eason, local guy, went to school up there in Washington, so not too far away here from Seattle. And he's a guy I think a lot of people had their eye on since he was drafted back in 2020. I think he's going to be a fun guy to get some time in this game. It's the Seattle team. They're looking towards the future. They're going to test out the young guys. Geno Smith is getting the starting bid, but by no stretch of the imagination is he likely going to be a starter at any point for this team unless injuries really fall down on them. They're going to hand this off to Drew Lock when he gets back healthy. And if Drew Lock does go down again, I think they're more likely to turn to Jacob Eason. I mean, he's your prototypical NFL quarterback. He's 6'6", 231, and he did just fine in college, hasn't gotten the opportunities yet here in the NFL. And we also found out Kenneth Walker not going to be playing here in the game. He has also come down with an injury. He's having a hernia issue. They kind of haven't said more on that, but all we know is he will not be playing in the game. D. Eskridge is out. Marquise Goodwin is questionable as well. Gabe Jackson and Jake Curran, the right side of the offensive line, going to be questionable going into the game. Linebackers got some injuries. Defensive backs got some injuries. Overall, the Seattle Seahawks depth chart is overwhelmed with injuries, lack of depth, and really a lot of struggles overall.
By the way, it's already been 10 years for Geno Smith. That's kind of hard to believe. I remember when he was at West Virginia, but he's bounced around. I think for now he's okay for them. I think he's a guy that's kind of like Jacoby Brissett type of player, where he's just okay. He's not going to be make or break for you, but Drew Lock's got to be the guy, I think, because they found something they liked in him coming out of Denver. I know he didn't do too much in Denver, but there was something he liked to get them. They liked getting him in that trade, so we'll see what happens with him. But
yeah, they brought him here for a reason. They weren't just doing it just to replace, Russ for a short period of time. They liked something enough to go and he can hold us afloat until we get our guy.
Well, and they got a good deal with that too. No fan, but I think for some reason, and no knock against him, but I think Drew Lock was a main focal point in what they wanted in that return for Russell Wilson. They saw something there, and I'm rooting for it. I hope they can turn him into something too, because I mean, you lose your guy like Russell Wilson, you got to have somebody to find. I think that's a guy that I'm rooting for him to kind of develop into something. So, but I don't expect too much out of the Seahawks this year. Honestly, I don't think anybody does, but I don't know. We'll see what happens to them.
Yeah, on the other side here, the Bears, they're also dealing with a lot of injuries. They placed one of their big names here in Doug Kramer on the injured reserve, so he's going to be done for the season. They waived defensive end Carson Taylor, defensive back Michael Joseph, corner Jason Stanley, linebacker Javin White. Doug Kramer, as mentioned, placed on the IR. Ryson John, tight end, has been waived as well. Noah Dawkins was waived, linebacker. They did sign, however, an offensive lineman in Corey Dublin, defensive back John Alexander. So they've wasted no time making moves, and I think it's kind of impressive with this Bears squad that they're so willing to make moves, because we haven't really seen that out of this team in the past. So to see them going out there, cutting guys to open up other roster spots to sign other guys here in preseason, I think it's showing something towards the future for this Bears team. I still think they're a long way off. I think Justin Fields would be their guy if they had anything else on this team. I think that's kind of the one knock against Justin Fields is he's in a really bad situation. It's kind of what you have to say about Trevor Lawrence down in Jacksonville. They might be building a little bit better, but Justin Fields has no hope of being a successful starter in the NFL if he's playing in Chicago his entire career.
That's true, but it's not even just the part. It's Chicago. It's the fact that we saw what he did when he had weapons at Ohio State. We saw a type of player he can be. They just don't have that in Chicago. They have a long way to go, I think. And last year I don't know what's going to do for his career from last year, but it didn't help him last year confidence wise what he went through. So he's got to build that back first of all. I know he always has confidence, but he's got to get some type of traction playing well to start his career. He didn't have it last year. I know he had some good moments too, but that's the thing, Alec. We've been talking about with the Bears going back to last week, their first preseason, breaking down teams for this year. They just don't have a whole lot. I think it's going to be another bad year for them. New head coach too. We'll see what happens with that with Justin and the whole team, but they just don't have too much with the Bears right now.
Right. And obviously the big thing is they're still working out a deal with Roquan Smith, the focal point of their defensive side. He's, kind of holding out at the moment on this team. He's requested a trade. Everybody knows that. And I think if you lose that for Chicago, this entire team falls apart. And that's a shame because guys like David Montgomery and Justin Fields never really got a chance here in the league. Even Cole Kmet, tight end.
Yeah, it's guys that haven't got opportunities, but is it going to be enough? Probably not for this Bears team.
Right, and coming in here to the game, this is what's really going to hurt Justin Fields especially. So his number one running back, David Montgomery, questionable. His number 2 wide receiver, Byron Pringle, questionable. Number 3 wide receiver, Velus Jones Jr., questionable. Number 5 wide receiver, N'Keal Harry, questionable. And the list goes down on that. His number 1 tight end, Cole Kmet, questionable. Backup tight end, Ryan Griffin, questionable. Third string tight end, James O'Shaughnessy, questionable. So he's relying on a 4th string tight end. Only one of his weapons on the offensive side isn't questionable going into this game of the starting unit. And even his center, Lucas Patrick, is questionable going into this game after they lost their center and Doug Kramer to the IR. So it's Sam Mustipher as the only center going into this game healthy. And the rest of the O-line is there. And the starting fullback is there in Kari Blasingame. But the Bears aren't going to be able to do a damn thing on offense. There's nothing there.
And they didn't do anything last year when they saw Allen Robinson.
Right. And Justin Fields is going to get thrown to the dogs. And if he ends up getting injured in one of these preseason games, they're done. Their backup quarterback is Trevor Siemian. And then their third string guy is Nathan Peterman.
That's your boy.
He is not my boy.
Yeah, he is.
I do not like Nathan Peterman.
Do we still have that clip, by the way?
The what?
You know what I'm talking about? That clip of how you said his name?
I got it somewhere, I think.
You have to.
I think I have it on a hard drive somewhere else. So
that's golden.
I don't think it's on my computer anymore.
That was a piece of work right there.
It's Nathan Peterman.
There you go.
Yeah, just recreate and clip it there. There you go. But you look at this Bears team, they're having a lot of problems so far. In Seattle, their defense is going in highly questionable as well into this game. So you look at both of these teams. The Bears somehow came on top in that first game. I didn't get a chance to talk about that. I think you guys went on to that game yesterday as they went up against the Chiefs last Saturday. Justin Fields, he did okay, and Trevor Siemian actually didn't do too bad, but I think you look at the depth of this team. There's just not much there for the Bears. So I don't know which way to go because there ain't anything there for the Seahawks either. This is a coin flip, and I think you can take either one. I think solely because I like Justin Fields, I'm going to give him a dub number 2 here, despite all his offense kind of missing going into this game. I guess I'll give him the win here against the Seahawks on Thursday.
Well, the good thing is, even though when they're healthy, they still don't have a whole lot, but at least the good news right now is you ran through all the injuries. It's still week 2 of the preseason, so they got some time here. And I'm not
much, down to half a month.
Not a lot, but we'll see what happens with how they progress in their rehabs or whatever some of these guys are going through. I didn't look through their injury list, but I guess I got to go Seahawks. I guess because I think even though you said Drew Lock's out, right?
Yeah.
I guess it's not a like you said, it's not a good choice, but I guess I'll go Seahawks just because they don't have a whole lot more. But I just pick Seahawks, I guess. And Geno Smith is going to start this, and I think he has, I guess, a little bit more. I don't even know. I'm just going Seahawks. I'm not even trying to BS an excuse.
Yeah, it's really hard to BS an excuse on this one. Our next game up, though, we go into Friday, 7 p.m. game. Only 3 Friday games this time out. NFL's, leaving this time period to go back to high school. They're going to retake over Saturday, and they're going to extend their Sunday slate. And we have our first Monday Night Football game coming up as well this weekend for the NFL preseason. Next game, though, Carolina Panthers at the New England Patriots, 7 p.m. game on Friday. No one here is going to be watching that one because that's kicking off the season on your sports network. But we got to talk about it anyway. And I think you go into this game, Pats are 0-1. We saw the struggles of their new system so far. It was okay. They didn't really want to press too much with they didn't even put Mac Jones in. We didn't see any of their starters. We got a chance to see some of their backup quarterbacks, and I think that's what we wanted in that first game, to kind of see what they were working with at depth. They came out short against the Giants. Again, preseason, not really much to worry about there. Carolina, we got to see a whole lot of quarterback play in that game from them. They do come out on top. One of the big things, though, during this week, there was a pretty big scuffle, I think, at the Panthers practice this week. Apparently, Christian McCaffrey was one of the big guys involved in it as well. So you could see a couple of guys maybe just, sat out here in this game, kind of a team suspension, if you will. We'll see how that turns out. I don't expect to see Christian McCaffrey getting any touches here in preseason. With a guy this injury prone, I'm not letting him touch the football.
And by the way, these joint practices, I don't understand, to be honest with you, because that's a lot of fights come out of them. And if you're at this point in the training camp, when you're having preseason games, I don't see the sense in trying to have them go up against somebody else, because you are going up against somebody else in preseason games. That's just, there's always fights come out of those, and that happened again. But with Christian McCaffrey, you just can't do this with him in the preseason, because you got to have him ready to go, because that is your offense come regular season, as we talked about, especially with the quarterback situation. We don't know what we're going to get out of that, no matter who starts, and they don't have a whole lot outside of that. So you got to save him for the regular season. I think on the Patriots side, we talked about it's going to be a work in progress, because they still have a young guy, even though at quarterback, even though Mac Jones did play well last year, and we've hit pretty good on the fact that they're going to have a different system. So it's going to be a work in progress. I think they'll find a way through it, but this is a good little time. And I don't think they did that bad offensively in the last game. 21 points. I know Mac Jones didn't play, but Brady Zappi, a guy behind him.
Zapp, baby.
I like what happened with him. He had some good numbers.
Yeah, I love Bailey Zapp down at Western Kentucky last year in college football. So I was excited to see him join this team. Kind of want to see him step up and be number 2 on this depth chart potentially going into the season. So I guess I do have this one question in regards to Mac Jones. It seems a lot of people are thinking this Patriots team is going to go downhill from last season, especially with all the change-ups offensively and defensively, and Belichick kind of taking a bigger role in the team. Do you think Mac Jones, though, is going to have a regression from last season, have a year 2 step back instead of that second-year jump that we look for in a lot of these second-year guys?
I don't know if the Patriots will, but I think it's possible that Mac Jones does, just because of the fact that, when you're coming from a system like at Alabama where he was at, where it's so set in stone, like what you're getting when you sign there, when you're playing there. And then you get that your first year in New England, but then things change. And you have a guy with Joe Judge who's on the staff there, who we all know how big of a disaster he was with the Giants. That part of it is kind of worrisome. Just the fact that it's not the part he's learning new offense, because he's learned new offenses throughout his career from high school to college to the pros. But, and I'm not just saying, with Mac Jones that he's going to stink this year. I'm just saying somewhat of regression I think is possible, because I think he was very good last year for his rookie year. And it's always hard to continue that. Great players do that, but we don't know what he's going to be at. But based off of last year compared to this year, there could be a little bit of a drop-off, I think. And I think that's likely.
I think it's likely, especially when you change systems on such a young quarterback. I think some of the older guys, obviously, Tom Brady could jump into that. Jimmy Garoppolo guy, he's been tossed around enough times. He can, pick up those systems quickly. We don't know if Mac Jones is a guy that can do that yet in his career. I don't think you're going to see a major regression. I think you're going to see a regression maybe in touchdowns and yardage. But I think you're also going to see, less interceptions going into the season. maybe a higher completion percentage. I just don't think the offense is going to be as good as it was last year, especially with some of the injuries we've already seen to this team. But I don't think it's going to be a bad year for Mac Jones. I think the numbers are going to go down, but I think he's going to be just as good as he was in his rookie season. So going into this game, Carolina not looking too bad so far. Baker Mayfield, I believe, we're going to see him be day one starter against the Browns. I don't think you could bring him in and not start him against the Browns in that game. That just seems a little too fitting to not put it in there. So at least game one, Baker Mayfield is going to be the guy to start it. We know yesterday he finished off practice with a beautiful ball down the field to DJ Moore, who is listed as questionable, but considering he's getting reps there in practice with the first team, I think you can probably expect to see him in this game this weekend. Same goes for Robbie Anderson. I think they're both participating right now at the moment here in preseason practices. So overall, this Carolina team, they're going to come in mostly healthy. So I don't think there's too much to worry about there. And like I would have said last season, Baker Mayfield's the better quarterback in this matchup between Baker and Mac Jones. I would have said that when he was in Cleveland. I'm going to keep doing that now. I'm not throwing him under the bus just because he's not my quarterback anymore, unfortunately. But I think this Carolina Panthers team, they got some actual depth this year, and I think that's something that's benefiting them. There's still too many questions with New England at the moment. So I'm going Carolina in this game, Mike.
Well, I think the Panthers have to go with the best quarterback from now on to the regular season. They have to go with the best quarterback in the room. And right now that is Baker Mayfield. You have to go with the best quarterback because, I think some other teams are doing that right now that have, are trying to find an answer at quarterback. I think right now, like a team example, a couple teams, without Deshaun Watson, I think Jacoby Brissett gives the Browns the best chance to win. I think we've both agreed on that. I think with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think right now, I know that Kenny Pickett hype, but right now I think Mitch Trubisky gives them the best chance to win.
Right.
That's what you have to do. And I think that's what the Panthers have to do to come out because we've seen a lot of Sam Darnold. We have not seen too much. We have not seen Sam Howell. You're not going to start the year with a rookie when you have two veterans. They'd probably start Sam Darnold over him because he's a rookie and he's been there. But I think right now you bring in a guy like Baker Mayfield.
Matt Corral's the rookie on this team, like not Howell.
Matt Corral, sorry. When you have to do that, you just have to because if you acquire a guy like Baker Mayfield, who was number one pick, who had some bright spots in Cleveland, and you acquire him, he's got to start week one because he gives you the best chance. And I agree with you. I think that they have some depth. I don't know how far it's going to take them this year, how many wins or losses they're going to have, but I think it's when you have depth, it's a good thing whether to go into a season what your expectations are or not.
I'm right there with you. Next game, though, that we got coming up, Saints versus Packers. Is how we started the regular season last year. These two teams got the matchup. Now we see them again here Friday, 8 p.m. game. And if you look at these two teams, quarterback-wise, backup quarterbacks, we know New Orleans is going to have the advantage there with Andy Dalton, Ian Book, KJ Costello. And we saw just how bad Jordan Love looked, at least in game one. From what we've heard, though, from Aaron Rodgers in practice, it may not have been all Jordan Love's fault. He came out, and it was yesterday's post-practice interviews, just saying our young wide receivers are making those rookie mistakes. They're dropping balls. They're making bad route decisions. They're just playing bad overall. So you'll love to see Aaron Rodgers already in mid-season form blaming the wide receivers for everything. But, he's used to throwing to some pretty high-caliber guys. And when you look at who they got past Lazard and Watkins, Cobb, and Tomyan, they don't have a lot. So I think part of that is warranted there for Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to be just fine come regular season with his main targets out there. But if they ever have to turn to depth, I think the Packers are really going to struggle. So I don't know how much we can actually blame on Jordan Love in this situation. Offensive line is going to have some question marks going into the game. David Bakhtiari is listed as out right now on their depth chart on ESPN. So is Mason Crosby, their place kicker. So that could be problematic going into it. So is their third string place kicker and Gabe Burkich. Ramiz Ahmed will get the boot, I should say, in special teams this week. So offensively, I think you're going to see plenty of struggles from the Packers. And I think the Saints team, they're trending in the right direction, not dealing too many injuries. They got some good depth. I think they're still a little short wide receiver wise, and especially tight end wise. They got some good players, but having Taysom Hill's your number 2 tight end on the roster, not promising to me. You got Adam Troutman as your number 1 guy, Nick Van Ant out of Ohio State, number 3, and then you got Juwan Johnson, 4th out of Oregon. So they got, I think, some good guys there, some big names. Obviously, Van Ant and Johnson were huge for their respective teams. This is now 3rd season for Johnson. I believe those 2 guys played opposite one another in a national championship game a while ago. So, you got some really high-profile guys. Neither one's done much here in the NFL, unfortunately. Yeah, but I think, they're still younger in their careers. Yeah. But it's hard to find a starting tight end gig because it's not like wide receiver. You'll see 3, 4, 5 wide receivers get into the first quarter of a regular season game. You're going to see 1 or 2 tight ends get that work there in a whole game. So a lot less space for tight ends to find their mark. So if you're starting tight end, you got to get in there and you got to keep your job. But like I'm saying, I think the Saints just have better depth overall. I like the defense of the Packers, I think, going into this, but I don't think it's enough to give me their win. I'm not very confident what they're rolling with at the moment.
Well, I think with first of all, offense side with the Packers, because I brought this up last week when we were talking about them, that Aaron Rodgers did say in an interview that it's, there's going to be, pains this year with younger guys. And I think he's at a place right now where, again, we can still say he sits here and blames the receivers, whatever, but I think he's in a place right now where in his career at least, that he's trying to be positive. And I think he's doing a better job at that with having a little bit of leniency with some of these younger guys. But, and it's not a whole, on Jordan Love. It's not all on him because, like you said, when there's an interception, it's on both sides. It's either going to be with a quarterback that didn't make a read or a receiver that messed up a route. It's going to be on both sides, whether you experience or not. And it's going to be even with Aaron Rodgers, with these guys getting in this year, there's going to be moments. But I think Aaron Rodgers is so great, and I think their defense I think it's going to be a strong part of their team this year is their defense. So combine all that, I think the Packers are going to be okay. And on the Saints side, I am excited to see their offense this year too. I'm actually excited to see the Saints as a team this year because they had that down year last year, a lot of injuries, and you mentioned right now in this situation they don't have a whole lot. So they're getting healthy. They had a good draft, obviously getting your boy from Ohio State. They have a lot of Ohio State guys too. They actually do too. Have a couple.
Yeah, Saints have been a team that love collecting Buckeyes as well.
They do. So,
and I know Matt says, "Oh man, the Steelers love getting Buckeyes," but don't forget about this team either because they like collecting them too.
Steelers haven't had a whole lot. Cam Hayward, but
it's Matt. Ooh. We got a frozen Wolfgang.
Oh, I am freezing up here. What's going on? We're good.
Okay.
I think both these. I think.
Ooh, might be losing Mike here at the minute. We're going to give him a second to get back into it, but he's talking about this Saints offense. A lot of young guys on the team. Saw a lot of good things from them last year, so I think pretty much is where he's going. He's going to be building off of. He's out of the show, so we'll bring it back on here in a second. But we might as well move on to the next game while we're waiting for the return of Wolfgang. So the next one up there, we got Houston Texans taking on the Los Angeles Rams. Should be an interesting game, late night, Friday night special in Los Angeles. Both teams have started 1-0 here in the preseason, so not too bad to start things out. Rams got the win over the Chargers. Texans ended up beating the Saints, who we just talked about, thanks to an odd performance by Jeff Driscoll. As Mike's going back in here. Mike, we're already moving on. Next game here, Texans, Rams. Clearly the network doesn't want you talking about that Saints offense, apparently.
Great Gerard connection here, too. Got to shout that out.
Yeah, blame it on that. No, Wi-Fi network. YSN, I don't think we'll care. But
no.
Clearly the Wi-Fi doesn't want you talking about New Orleans.
That's fine.
Next game here, I'm just talking. Texans somehow pulled out a win despite a really lackluster performance by Jeff Driscoll. I mean, he was fine, then he was terrible. It was very up and down, but I think the one thing we've seen so far from this Texans team, they got a pretty solid defense. They got a couple injuries here at the moment, which might derail that momentum they got going on here at the moment. But I think overall, you got to like what this Texans team is bringing, at least in the preseason. Rams have a ton of injuries going on here at the moment. I don't know really what you're going to see here in week 2. I think they saw a lot of things in week 1. Ooh, hold on here. I'm back. Sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you. And I was like, I'm going to get out of here so I don't blow out headphone users at the moment. But no, I was just saying, I think they saw plenty in their first game. I don't know how much they're really going to push it here. I think you're going to see a couple more snaps from some starters, but Stafford's questionable. Akers is questionable. Van Jefferson's questionable. They got so many injuries here at the moment, and I think they're still recovering from the Super Bowl and everything that comes with that, extended seasons, more workouts. And I think they can still use this preseason as their I guess part of as their break. And that's what we saw in their first game. I mean, they only had 4 wide receivers that caught balls in that game. If that tells you what this team is working with at the moment, and they found a way to win the game. So it's going to be a very dangerous team again. They're going to win on their defense. Texans are going to win on their defense. It's only a matter of whose offense is going to have better time in this game. And I think Texans, at least at the moment, they're going to have more starters out there here in week 2, for however long that may end up being. But I think just having that little extra push for a little bit, I think is enough to tip over for me. I'll take the Texans over the Rams here. And that'll be the only time you hear me say that here in the NFL season. And
a big reason why I'm going to go that way as well, because preseason, a lot of guys, it's a Texans team that is rebuilding, so they're going to have a lot of guys out there trying to fight for position, young guys too. And a lot of their starters are going to play because they don't know who's going to start for them this year in a lot of spots. And for the Rams, you read through some of the injuries. I'll keep going with it. Well, actually, I'm going to repeat some of them you said. Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson's out. Leonard Floyd's out. Jordan Fuller's out. Who else is out here? Jalen Ramsey's out. Matt Stafford, because he has that little not surgery, but whatever he went through with his I think it was a shoulder or something. I don't remember. Mm-hmm. But Van Jefferson, like you said, they got a lot of – and those are a lot of key guys out too. And even some of the stars they have right now, that, Cooper Kupp, those guys are not going to play that aren't injured. So I'm going to go Texans as well. Like you said, that's probably going to be the last time I will take a team like the Texans over the Rams. Not to say I won't pick the Texans at all in any game this year, but against a team this caliber, that's not going to happen. But like you said, it is preseason, so we'll go that way.
Make sure you take a look here at the comment that's up on the screen.
Thank you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man, you always got new jerseys out here. I got to step up on my end.
I'm bringing actually football jerseys. I actually started getting into it last year because I know you said too that you like getting guys that are on pro teams that went to your favorite college. I got 2 of them, Mike Parsons and Pat Freiermuth.
Yeah, that's a good way to go. Because even if they leave that pro team, you're like, well, I still got that one from my favorite team in the NFL, being on your favorite team or one of your favorite teams in the NFL. So it's fun.
I got Dak too.
Right, and you got Dak. You ain't got to worry. You got a jersey for almost every week of the show, so you're good.
Dak's locked up too, so I don't have to worry.
Right. Well, never say never, Mike. That's how you jinx things.
You have to rewrite. I should know better by now.
You should know better by now.
I really should.
But next game up here, a team that definitely needs to avoid some injuries here in the preseason, the Denver Broncos. They're going to be taking on the Bills this week in Buffalo's first Saturday game at 1 p.m. I don't know how to feel about this one going into it. I mean, these two teams, they both started 1-0. I think Bills are going to have a lot better regular season. But I think the Broncos here in preseason, still in their feeling out period, they got handed the benefit of a really, 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 really terrible Cowboys performance that I know you guys talked about yesterday. And 17 penalties? I don't think they can rely on that every week. I mean, we'll see if the NFL puts things out in their favor. But on the other side, we saw this Bills team go out there and have a poor offensive showing. They threw 3 interceptions and still put 27 points up on the board and came out with a win, despite having only 2 offensive touchdowns. So I think you look at this Bills team, the fact that they had that many struggles and they still came out with the win, you really got to like the direction to go with that they're going in. Broncos, I think clear as day. They got a pretty solid wide receiver core. They got a decent running back room, and they got some fine backup quarterbacks. So I think they're going to fit a lot better in the regular season than I thought they were going to, at least initially here with what I've seen in that first preseason game. This is a good test, though, I think, for both teams. Now you got to put your full systems into place, get some of those starters out there. second to 3 weeks here in the preseason. So you're going to see those starters come into the game, whether it's for a quarter, whether it's for two. You don't know exactly what their game plans are going to be, but when you put that out there, I'm taking Bills at least in the starters. But I think when we compare backups, Broncos aren't too far off from this Bills team when you start looking at depth. But I'm going to hand this one over to Buffalo to take it.
Well, and obviously we talked about yesterday with the Cowboys' embarrassment with penalties in a preseason game, 17. That's insane. But I think I know a lot of starters don't play in the regular season or preseason. Sorry, and a lot of guys you're shuffling in and out. So I understand it's gonna be hard to kind of get anything going and try to get on offense or defense. But that many penalties, 17. I don't know the official yardage that they got off of those 17 Cowboy penalties, but 17 points off of that. They got to do a little better than that. I don't care if your starters or your backups. That's a lot of yardage. And if you can't put the ball in the end zone only twice, I got to go with the Bills too.
Fair enough. All right, next game on the schedule. Talked about a team that this one faced, but the Indianapolis Colts are going to be hosting the Detroit Lions. Both teams lost week 1 here. Lions fell to the Falcons, and the Colts dropped one to the Bills in a tight one. And one that I think you look at for the Colts and you went, all right, not too bad. Sam Ehlinger went 10 of 11. Nick Foles went 7 for 11. Matt Ryan 6 of 10. And they got the ground game working. Not too much. They didn't want to wear anybody down. And I think the still one knock against them is the severe lack of wide receiver stars. We might see a little bit more out of Pittman in this game. Alec Pierce getting some work. But I think you got to like at least what you saw out of the Colts in that first game. The Lions, I mean, they have the same knocks against them, though, don't they? No wide receiver core. Yeah. They might have a little bit more there, but these two teams are probably in the running for the worst wide receiver room in the NFL at the moment. We'll see how that develops here in the season. Not too many injuries here on either side. I'm looking at a depth chart. Only really one starter going to be out in this game for the Colts, and Shaquille Leonard, Romeo Okwara, Jason Kabinda, and Jamison Williams going to be out for Detroit. So you should see a pretty healthy game, and I think this should be a fun one, maybe the most entertaining of the preseason, because both these teams are looking to build, they're looking to get somewhere and turn this team into something a lot better than they were last year. So I think you could see a competitive matchup between these two, and they're both trying to just find some momentum here in the preseason to carry it in, and I think you're going to see a lot of new plays, not a lot of fun plays, I think, in this game overall. And I don't know, I'm kind of at a coin flip on this one on who I'm going to pick.
There's another jersey I can get next. Maybe I can get a Jason Kabinda Lions jersey. Penn State boy.
There you go.
If he gets a little bit better. But with the Colts offense, like you said, there's not a whole lot there. I like Michael Pittman. I like Mo Alley Cox, and I like what they have in the backfield. But like you said, with Matt Ryan, last year he had kind of the same situation in Atlanta. It didn't go well. I think it's going to be another type of year with the Colts. It's similar to what they had last year with Carson Wentz, but Lions side, like you said, there's just not a whole lot there. I guess I'll go Colts at home in this one.
You're going Colts. I think I like that what they had at quarterback last week, and that's obviously really important here in the NFL when you're getting in here in preseason. You got to have some depth at that position, and I think we saw that the Colts had some really solid depth, at least there in week 1. They went up against a pretty good defense in the Bills to do it, so I'm going to give the Colts another one here.
And David Blau didn't play too bad for the Lions.
No, he didn't. I like him.
Yeah. I know we talked about it a little bit last week.
Made real improvements so far in his time in the NFL. The fact that he was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league a couple years ago, rated as such, and seeing that game, I think you got at least some improvements.
Yeah, it's the time to do
right. It. Next one on Saturday, 4 p.m. Commanders taking on the Chiefs. I think this will be the final NFL game we'll talk about here today. Finish things off tomorrow as we get ready for high school as well. But Commanders and Chiefs going at it. Mike, the Chiefs are going to be good in the regular season.
We know
so
that.
I don't think they're really concerned here with the preseason at all. You're going to see Pat Mahomes a little bit more. He led one drive, got a touchdown out of it against the Bears. Now he's going up against Washington, who we didn't see make too many defensive improvements. Hope they're going to be a little bit better. Hope they get back to where they were like 2 years ago, but I don't think this defense is quite there just yet. I think when you look at this Chiefs, they got enough here in preseason. At least they got depth. We know they have some decent depth. I mean, they had 15, 16 different guys catch balls in preseason one against the Bears. They lost it ultimately, but I do like the Commanders' quarterback room at the moment. Sam Howell looked pretty good. Taylor Heineke, we know what we can get out of him. He had a bad start, but he can get better. You're going to see more out of Carson Wentz, who can move the ball just fine, but, we have seen in the past struggles to score. So I'm going Chiefs in this one here, Mike.
I like Washington's quarterback room too, but it's a group of guys that haven't shown us too much. They've shown us some good moments, but they've shown us some bad moments. Roller coasters, what we call it. But Chiefs, like I said, it's the last couple of years with these preseason games with them. It's just tooling up for the regular season. I know there's a little bit new face of their skill group, but we know they're going to be good. We don't know what Washington's going to be. It's this time of year just to feel out to see who's going to be where on positions and depth charts. But I got to go Chiefs at home in this one.
Fair enough. And the boss tossing this one out here. Where does Mason Rudolph get traded to if he gets traded? Mike?
Does he even get traded? I don't even know.
I don't know. I think that's a tough question to answer when you look at what they have, because I think he's still very much in the race at the moment for, I'll say, day one starter, because if you're the Steelers going into this season, your expectation is at minimum 500. Minimum is winning
every
half
year
your
for the
games.
Steelers is.
Right. And you don't play 16 anymore. So you got to go 9-8. There is no more 500. You're either going 9-8 or 8-9. DJ says the Lions. I don't know. That wouldn't be a terrible spot for him, but I think you have to remember wherever Mason Rudolph goes, he's not going to be the starter. He's a career backup at this point. We'll see how that turns for him. But yeah. I don't think there's a starting gig anywhere. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I think it was last week. The question got put up: are we having quarterbacks going longer because they are just that good, or because there's nothing else behind them? Mason Rudolph is one of those guys. He's good, but he's still not good enough to take one of those starting jobs away from somebody. And I don't think there's enough teams out there that are willing to go the Mason Rudolph route and to bring him on.
Well, a couple things. Me and Matt talked about this yesterday. Obviously, we know it's preseason. We try to take it with a grain of salt, but he did play well in the preseason game in the time he was in. And I think 5-4-1, I think his record is as a starter, not playing it, but as starting. That's fine, but I think that him being drafted by Pittsburgh with Big Ben still there with a couple years left, I don't think that was the right situation for him, because Big Ben's a guy that's not really willing to teach young guys, and that's what happened with Mason Rudolph. So I don't know if we always talk about change of scenery. We talk about with Baker too. I saw Angel Filipponi on 93.7 The Fan threw out the Lions, so I think that's why DJ's saying that. Some people have been talking about the Lions. I like Davis Mills in Houston, but maybe even Houston. I don't know, because nothing's solidified with a rebuilding team, so maybe that's a shot where he could win a job. I don't know. If he gets traded, I think those are some teams.
Okay, if you were to send him to the Lions, is Mason Rudolph good enough to beat Jared Goff out?
I don't know, because
we have to remember Jared Goff is, I think, kind of has a similar path as Jimmy Garoppolo. This guy's been in NFC Championship games. Hell, he's played in a Super Bowl.
I'm just saying,
Jared Goff is a high-level quarterback. We saw the team he was on moved away from him and then won a Super Bowl. And they were still on an upward trajectory when he was there. But they went to go upgrade. That wasn't a shot at Goff. That was a shot that they had with Stafford. And yeah, keep this one in mind. Mason Rudolph couldn't beat out Duck Hodges.
That's true, but I'm just saying
he's not going to beat out Jared Goff.
I'm not saying he's going to. I'm
just throwing this out there, not at you, just into the camera.
Oh, I know, but I'm not even going to sit here and act like I'm saying Rudolph's good, but I'm just saying he's decent, I guess, is the best case for what you could say with him. But when you're a rebuilding team, I talked about this yesterday or the last time I was on with you, and this is in any sport. You acquire people at minimum if you can for nothing. Bring them in and see what they can do. You're rebuilding team, you got nothing to lose.
I don't think the Steelers move him.
I don't know if they do either. I'm just saying if they do.
Because I think if they were going to have moved Rudolph, I think they probably would have. I think Tomlin likes him, and that's why he's still there. Mike Tomlin likes him, and he knows this guy fits the system that they run currently. He's been there. He's experienced. So I think he's just one of those guys they can throw him in there if they get injuries and things are going bad. He's one of those guys they can just throw in there.
No, I don't think he'll bring back more than Baker. What did Baker get? A 4th round, 5th round pick?
Yeah, it wasn't much.
I don't know what you're going to get out of it. It's probably going to be something less than that or the same. I don't know. If he even gets moved, like you said, I think it's a good question.
I think that's more the question than where is he getting moved to? Because, I guess the big thing here with the Steelers, we don't know how they handle quarterback adversity. They've had Big Ben, so this is uncharted waters going into the season here for Pittsburgh. You say that, but we've seen guys stay on a team as career backups for a long time because they fit the system. Case Keenum was really a great example of that as well, running Stefanski's system. He fit that so well. He's pretty much followed Stefanski a good portion of his time since he found that up in Minnesota. He back up there behind Cousins, back up here in Cleveland while Stefanski was running things. Still is, but Keenum now gone. You bring in guys because you need somebody better. But at the end of the day, you still sometimes need that guy that understands the system and can just fill in while everyone else is learning. So I think that's part of it here when you look at that. I don't see the Steelers trading Mason Rudolph because I don't think there's a market for Mason Rudolph.
And this is why, from what DJ said, this is why I don't understand. I get it. It's training camp. You got to see what some guys do with different groups, but it should not be. You should not start the season with. And again, if Mitch Trubisky starts, which he probably will, I'm fine with that because I know. I think
he should.
I know you drafted Kenny Pickett, but that's why you signed a guy with Mitch Trubisky, who did get limited time last year because it was a backup, but who did seem to get better with the Bills and being in that system. But with Mason Rudolph, I don't understand. You can't start the year with Mitch Trubisky starting and Mason Rudolph being the backup. I just don't think you can do that. Because why do you draft Kenny Pickett at 20?
Why did the Panthers draft the quarterback as well?
And another team
Panthers drafted Matt Corral.
Where'd they pick him at, though?
Well, here's the thing. Kenny Pickett was the only quarterback taken in the first 2 rounds.
There you go.
That's I think one of the biggest things as well. Everyone got steals on quarterback deals this year.
And I thought about this yesterday. I've even said this a few times. I don't know why I didn't say it yesterday because Matt was talking about, and he's not wrong in saying this, but he said that Kenny Pickett, the reason they took him, whatever all the Pitt stuff you want to say, but he was the most experienced guy coming out of the draft because he played a long time in college. But I don't like when people use the term NFL ready because you can spend all the time you want in college. That's not the NFL. You're not NFL ready to actually get experience.
You're not. Most guys in the NFL are NFL ready until their 3rd or 4th season in the NFL. But
I hate when people say that. Like, how are you NFL ready when you haven't been in the NFL? You're college ready, you're experience ready, but
right. No, you're ready for big games in college. You're not ready for a preseason game in the NFL. I mean, I think we saw that maybe even out of Justin Fields last season, right? Came out first preseason game. He was throwing it all over the yard, was feeling good, got a little cocky. Game 2 came out and he got smacked in the mouth and then he shut up.
Which he needed.
Right. He needed that. I think every young quarterback needs that pop in the mouth. You have to understand how the game flows and you got to take those hits.
And Justin Fields is coming from a situation where he did not lose much in Ohio State. We're going to a team like the Bears that don't have a lot of success. You got to change your mindset. And he found it out.
Yeah, he found that out quickly. And I think they were better for it. Obviously, there was question marks with, him starting last year. Him and Dalton kept flipping around for positions there. But I think it was kind of a similar situation with Dalton as their quarterback last year in Chicago. Justin Fields kind of coming in and out depending on situations and where they felt they needed to be and where they were moving on to. And you saw by the end of the season, Fields was their guy, and they were pushing that. And they allowed Dalton to take the move, and he's down in New Orleans, I believe it is now. But I think you look over here with Pittsburgh, I think you got that same situation. You got a veteran quarterback in Mitch Trubisky, had a veteran quarterback in Andy Dalton. You bring in your rookie who you are expecting to take over as your starter at some point. I think more on it is Mitch Trubisky might be the short term here. We're going to keep on to him year, 2 years maybe, but they're not going to let Mitch Trubisky sit there on a big contract. And I think you might have, depending on how this season goes here for Pittsburgh, you might have a better chance of seeing Trubisky get traded somewhere than Mason Rudolph. because I think Trubisky is a better quarterback. And if Pickett comes out there at some point in this season and just starts going big, no way are they going to be able to put Trubisky back in that game. Tomlin might want to, but you're going to get media scrutiny. I know Tomlin doesn't care about this stuff, but the media is going to be on him. The fans are going to be on him, especially if you're not winning games. If you're not winning games, you should put Pickett in there. Get him that experience. And if you're winning games with Trubisky, everyone's going to be saying, oh, but could Pickett do better? And if you put him out there one time and he does do better, and then he keeps that up, Pickett will be your number one guy. And I think that's a likelihood by the end of the season because he is a guy. All he needs is some experience. He just needs to get timing down. It's not like he's learning a new environment either, which might be the biggest upside for Kenny Pickett. He's playing in his college stadium. Pitt fans were at the game. At the first preseason game, the entire stadium was giving him a standing ovation. So I think Pickett more than likely a starter at some point, and I think there's a good likelihood Trubisky is the one that gets traded. Are you going to put this comment up? Both click at the same time.
You know my answer to that.
Who gets to a Super Bowl first? Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Green Bay, or Tampa Bay?
I'm going to go Tampa, and I'm actually.
Are we going to put these in order?
I'm going to go in order. I don't know if you are, but I'm going Tampa because they've done it. I can't go Green Bay because I haven't done it in 10 years. Neither is Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh is always this year too. If you want to leave this up, you can. But what this year is, with Mitch Trubisky, I don't care what Trubisky starting week one, Pickett, whoever. I wouldn't say it's Rudolph, but I'm saying those two guys. I talked about this yesterday with Matt. Their skill group is pretty good. I know their offensive line's still a question mark, but it got better last year. It's still not one of the best, but it's good enough. It was good enough for Ben. I think it'd be good enough for one of these other guys that can move around. Their skill group is really deep this year, and I think if their defense can get back on track as it was the last couple of years, Pittsburgh can go on the run this year. I don't think it's out of the question to say that. I really think they can. All right, I'll put mine to work. Tampa Bay first because Tom Brady. I didn't get my list. I'm going Tampa, right. Pittsburgh, Green Bay. And I'm not trying to beat up on Cleveland, but they have not done it. There's always something with Cleveland. There's always something with Cleveland. I'm there with you. I'm not putting. I got Cleveland in that same spot, but I'm going Tampa Bay. Tom Brady. Anytime you got Tom Brady, you're a contender. He's been there too many times to go. No shot. He's too old. Not happening. He's got a bad roster. He's had bad rosters. He's had way worse rosters than he has now, and he's made it far, and he's had great seasons. So Tampa's number one. I would like to put Green Bay number two, but I think the number one thing that we've heard in preseason so far, especially with Aaron Rodgers' comments, is our young guys just are too inexperienced. And we saw this team with plenty of weapons before not do anything. So Aaron Rodgers is a statistically great quarterback, but he's not a Super Bowl quarterback anymore. He doesn't have enough there. I like their defense this year. They have a great ground game. But at the end of the day, quarterbacks win your Super Bowls and get you there. And Aaron Rodgers he doesn't do that. He can't win the big games anymore. In the postseason, I'll say. Regular season, yeah, he can win tons of games. He'll be just fun. But the postseason, there's something different about it. And he can't take that step up anymore. So I'm going Pittsburgh. Number two team on that list that I got getting to a Super Bowl first. Because I think you look at this team, and the reality of the situation is they're a good quarterback away from a Super Bowl. Yeah, that's what I just said, yeah. A good quarterback, and I would say some improvements at the wide receiver spot. But if Pickens continues to develop the way he's going, at least when what we've seen in limited aspects so far, he seems to fit the system. I mean, keep in mind, Chase Claypool had some regressions last year, but he is still also a great wide receiver out there for the Steelers. Deontay Johnson, clearly the staff believes in him. They got him on a nice contract to return there. I think it's a 3-year, $18 million deal. So I think you look at that. Pat Freiermuth, great. And he should 100% take over tight end one spot from Eric Ebron, Mr. Butterfingers himself. Then Zach Gentry behind him. Right. I think you look at the offense, you go, all right. And they're only a quarterback away, in my opinion. Defensively, I think Pittsburgh's regressing in this department from what they were 2 years ago. Last season, they really weren't great. They really weren't. Half of it's Devin Bush, too, by the way. Right. And here, B-Money going out there, Devin Bush getting traded before the season or by trade deadline. That wouldn't be bad, actually, making the flip, Roquan Smith.
I think Pittsburgh would have to give up more than just Devin Bush, though, in that trade to get a guy like Roquan. I mean, that's an all-pro level linebacker from Chicago, and he is a focal point of that defense. So I think Steelers probably have to give up a little bit more than just Devin Bush. Probably they could honestly get away with a fifth and a sixth to go along with Devin Bush, potentially, maybe a third and a fourth. We'll see if that could work out. But I think you got to say Pittsburgh second most likely on that list to make it to a Super Bowl. They're so close, and they have a great head coach, and that's another aspect that I think a lot of people always forget about. Great quarterbacks, great players. Got to have that head coach that knows situational football. Situational football is huge, and you need a guy that can do it. Third on that list, going Green Bay here. There's just too much experience in that room with Aaron Rodgers. He can still come out there. Like I said, he can't win the big games, but he's more likely to win a game than Cleveland. So I got Cleveland as a fourth team.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think we have the same list.
I would like to see Cleveland. I'm going to put this back out there. I would love to see Cleveland in a Super Bowl. They're my team. I'd love to see it out there. But likelihood not happening. Would you throw Chase Claypool in there if you get Tavon Jenkins along with Smith?
Mm-hmm.
I would only say no to that because I feel like the league is really down on Chase Claypool at the moment. I don't feel like there's a market, even though I think there should be, because I think he's a really good wide receiver. And I think he would be really good for Justin Fields over there because I think he needs a big-bodied guy that he can get to in the middle of the field because I don't feel like there's anybody on that wide receiver core that's going to help Justin Fields out in the middle. And I feel like that's where you can put Chase Claypool. I mean, put him in there as a slot guy, not your typical small slot receiver, but he fits more like a secondary tight end out there with speed, and that would be great. And I think that's definitely something that they would consider. I don't know if Pittsburgh would move Chase Claypool. And I feel like there is a lot of people out there that are very down on him still. And I don't know why. He had some regressions in year 2. He's a wide receiver, and he was with a really old, bad quarterback in Big Ben.
Who I know he has regressed a little bit. Attitude has been an issue, at least last year a little bit. I don't know how big of an issue, but he has talent, like you said. He's a big body guy, and his upside is really there. Chase Claypool. That's why I'm saying their skill group is, like you said, quarterback away. I think it's not out of the question to say if they get good quarterback play this year.
And if Kenny Pickett develops as a first-round pick, he'll be just fine. And this team will be just fine. And the only reason, I would tend to lean towards the NFC teams is it's not deep over there. The AFC has a lot of depth.
That's true.
And so that's definitely going to make it a struggle for both Cleveland and Pittsburgh, and why I think some people would definitely have Green Bay at second on that list behind Tampa. That NFC, I mean, if you have a great season and you got some good development, you might be a shoo-in to take it. So,
yeah.
But unfortunately, it's all the time we got for the show today. I believe Scrappers on the network later tonight. And high school football kicks off tomorrow. We're going to be getting to a little bit more NFL, and then we're talking that on tomorrow's show. So make sure to tune in. Power Hour coming up next on your sports network. I've been Alec Burner. That's Mike Wolfgang. I'll be back tomorrow.